a goal, Quishbilly Huddersfield Town! The most famous goal of Quishbilly's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Thank you.
And Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome back to the Andy Takes That Chance review show. This week, patience is a virtue as Town find themselves knocked out of the Football League trophy after a poor 90 minutes at Bolton, and then compounded that with a poor 45 before your resolve was rewarded with a rip-roaring comeback against a very game and well-organised Lincoln City. Kosi was so incensed by the reaction to Town going 2-0 down that he was on the phone to Radio Leeds before he even walked out the stadium, and we'll discuss the bee in the Bears' bonnet. Unfortunately, Killer can't be with us, as being vegan means he has a very weak immune system. It's a fact. Don't look it up. And we welcome back a pod legend with Phil Senior back in the pod seat. How are we doing, guys?
Hello, how are we doing?
Hi, Matt. So you've got no Christmas decoration. I said, Phil, you've got... No, I think you haven't in your background.
Oh, no, the other lights are on outside.
Yes. Well done, mate.
If I tilt this slightly, if I tilt my screen slightly and go like that, I've got a little penguin with a Christmas hat on there.
Andy's come as Santa as well, so buzzing.
Your beard's bigger than mine, mate.
Jaden Brown, Romany Critchlow. It's got some big names on this shirt behind you.
Looks like a...
He said Critchlow, and then he said, we've got some big names on this shirt. You could have said it after anyone, couldn't you?
No,
after anybody.
Well, I just need yours on here, mate. But,
yeah, we'll be struggling them.
Anyway, speaking about framed shirts, Kosi, let's have a word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by On Point Framing and Memorabilia. On Point Framing and Memorabilia are the preferred framing partner to Huddersfield Town AFC and the proud supplier of authentic signed town memorabilia. They have a great range of items available on the website opframing.co.uk in the HTFC collection tab. Make sure you check them out. Okay, boys, let's move on to Huddersfield Town 2, Lincoln City 2. Not the result that we wanted, but in context, certainly not the end of the world. We'll roll back to the drive-in where on our preview show, myself and Killer toyed with the lineup and both came to the conclusion that a 4-3-3 was probably for the best, as we needed to avoid the Turton and Ruffles pairing at wing-back, as it would end up more of a 5 than a 3 at the back. And then as a consequence of having them both at wing-back, Duff sort of altered the midfield to go with the 2 8s and 1 6, which has proven rather unsuccessful this season, barring the away games at Bolton and Peterborough, where it worked quite well against the high press, which is not what Lincoln quite do, play out from the back. But so it worked with a high press against teams playing out from the back. This, for me, contributed maybe to what we saw play out in the first half. There's a little bit of an issue there for Duff because what else could he do in a lot of ways? Injuries are biting, etc. But it seemed to me that the structure was a little bit out of whack in that first half, which was brilliantly worked around by Michael Duff at half time. But I think you've also got to give credit to Lincoln as well. I thought they played quite well in that first half. Although from our point of view, we'd probably say that the goals were fairly avoidable and maybe down to the structure. The first one in, boys, it's a good ball in by Deriqua. He's given a lot of time, hasn't he, to serve that up, which wasn't ideal. And Ben House gets a run on Turton and scores with a good header. But you know what? The second goal is actually pretty good. I mean, structurally, we're not great, as I mentioned, but there's a really good ball into the box and a flick by House, which is great. And Bailey Cadamartri gets on the end of it and might get the goal taken off him because it's possibly heading wide before Lundvik diverts it in. But I think at this point, you've just got to kind of say, do you know what? Town not quite at it. Selection not ideal, but Lincoln played pretty well, Phil.
Yeah, we weren't at it, were we? I think for whatever reason, whether it was tactics, strategies, players individually, It just didn't seem to quite click, did it? And like you say, like going to what you said about Lincoln, they had some willing runners, and their three up top kind of causes a lot of problems. I thought you and Calamatri were brilliant. I thought they were outstanding. Worked really hard. I mean, we saw he was that kind of player at Sheff Wednesday. I was a little disappointed, really, that we didn't try and go in for him, and if we did, maybe work a bit harder to get his services, because I think he was a kind of player that we need, a young, hungry, player. You could say proven. He did well at Sheff Wednesday, who would come and give us a little bit of energy up front. But obviously, we didn't get him, so I felt like it was a tough game for our back line, and with that lack of pace really there, it was always going to be quite challenging. And then I felt like they had quite a lot of free ball in midfield, so I think it was hard for people like Matty and Helic to kind of hold that high line without the threat of the ball going over the top, which he did quite a lot. And I feel like that's where we ended up struggling. If you're getting Matty 1v1 out in wide areas, it's going to be difficult for him. So yeah, it didn't quite click, did it? And I don't know whether it was a hangover from the game before or just a slow start. I'm not sure, but it certainly didn't work very well for us. And fortunately, the second half was a lot different.
Kosi, you always like to give a little bit of credit where credit's due, don't you, to the opposition, and I think you can kind of say fair play to Lincoln on this. They came out of the blocks. They had a point to prove. You said on a preview show that you did for Lincoln that you weren't fooled by Lincoln's recent form as well, and it proved that you kind of have an idea of what you're talking about sometimes, because they came out, didn't they, and shoved that straight down our throats.
Yeah, it's really, you can look at form lines and kind of, I mean, ours was, look at our kind of weird checkered form line this year, but yeah, I mean, the weirdest thing first, obviously, I like to get tactical. Their shirts and shorts. Do we know why, or is that their black shirt? What?
I love the look of that. I thought it looked brilliant.
Blackout kit. Yeah, I liked it. I quite liked it.
It's a blackout kit, because you couldn't see any sponsor or anything, or club badge. I didn't see it close enough, but I could tell by the name and number, because someone was saying to me that they must have turned up with a same kit as us and been meant to get a run. But I thought, how do you get to shop and get your number in as good as that and names and stuff? I thought there's no way it's that. But you know what, Matt? It's become a bit of a grudge match for the Huddersfield Lincoln. Obviously, for a few reasons. One of those weird things where Brad played Palace yesterday, and they always say that's kind of a weird derby, and this is not a derby, but I don't know. There's a bit of edge, and even when I did that preview show with that guy, you could tell there were, we want to beat you bastards, and I was thinking I want to beat you as well. So, and then when you went into the town centre before, loads of police, there were apparently someone kicked off somewhere, and when you got in, and you saw the kind of their guys at the front, and it just felt a little bit different, didn't it? And I enjoy a little bit of edge. Now, it sounds really bad because there were loads of people getting chucked out and stuff at various points and stuff, but you did feel a bit of a, God, as was the occasion, but it felt a bit, come on, intense as well.
Like a football game, didn't it? It's like a football game, because there's nothing worse than 200 away fans sat on their hands saying nothing, and there's no back and forth and what have you. And Lincoln, I think Lincoln, whether you think it's a derby or not, are a bunch of fans who give it to you, don't they? Effectively, I've sent you a picture of that kit, Kosi and Phil, on WhatsApp. It is a blackout kit. It's a smart one. I'll give them that. It's made by Oxen, who I think have done some Huddersfield.
Yeah, I've got half of their wardrobe in my stuff, mate. From
rugby league out, the most rugby league out.
Fashion stuff now. They've got a shop in that Junction 32, but enough for them adverts. But yeah, no, good.
No.
They didn't. I thought they'd come and have a go, and one of those games pretty early on, like 15 minutes in, you just thought we're not playing well, and I think the worrying thing was they want one player. I didn't think that you could say played well in that first half, and as you'll know, Phil, or anyone really, it's like once you've got like 10 players just totally out of sorts, you either want to be something to change, like as in tactical, or it's a bit radical to make a sub and stuff as well. But obviously, little did we know, kind of Matty Pearson sounded like he was ill, and so because one or two things was so weird. That one when he just blasted the ball upfield as if like, I didn't.
That's a Matty Pearson special, though, isn't it?
That's a good old Matty Pearson back in the day. That's a good pass from Matty back in the day.
Their goal was smart, and the fullback thing was a bit of a shame, really, because like Pos made a good point that he obviously we turned it around. We'll come out of the joys second half, but the club. I walked away from Mansfield thinking, not daft enough to think, there's not going to be another blip in the row. We're not going to carry on winning every game till May, but you just wanted to we're back in front of us home fans, and you wanting to kind of build and take the initiative, and we just did none of that at all, did we? And honestly, then once that second goal's in, I'm thinking, oh my days, it's like I didn't see a way back. But yeah, credit to them. Cadamarteri obviously finished nice. I wasn't fooled by any of that crap from Danny Cadamarteri, who said my boy against my boys. He's got that many boys.
My beloved HTFC. He does like us, does Danny, but he does know how to play to the gallows a little bit.
Yeah, and it had to be him and that as well. But yeah, no, I thought they were really good, and we showed nothing up. Again, they were like, no, front ward had such an off day. He was doing nothing. It was like we were playing with about 6 men at times as well, and. Yeah, the crowd obviously will come up later on. They reacted bad. It were awful. And honestly, if I was just thinking, if you just put it to a stranger who just fancied a game, Huddersfield Lincoln, be like, hey mate, this team here, right, I've won in 7, and this team here, blue and white, we all the fans giving them big support, trying to. They haven't lost in 9. You think, mate, you're talking bollocks here. But that's how it was just weird, wasn't it? It was just a weird half, and yeah, it couldn't come soon enough to end. And but it's honestly at half time, you always try and be I always try and be optimistic, but even me were thinking, I can't see it, because you had basically a full team out of sorts. Not 1-2 players really did much.
You get that this time of year though, Cos, don't you? Because there's so many games thick and fast. There's the cup games. It's the season for injuries, isn't it? It's not just the Christmas period. It's the period where you get so many injuries.
Or illness. Can we kind of?
Well, we had another one in the first half, didn't we? You mentioned Matty Pearson. A lot seem to think it was a kick to the head, which we're hoping it's not, because if it's a kick to the head, it'll have to go through concussion protocols and he'll miss Friday. If it's an illness, hopefully it's something he can get over before Friday and be in contention for Cambridge, because Matty Pearson's been brilliant this season, and one ropey first half where he's not feeling well is not going to sway my opinion on his season so far. He's been fantastic so far. Kosi, we'll come back to you very quickly. Half time, Town 2-0 down. You sit in a different area to what I do. My area is rather sleepy and polite and stuff, and yours, in your area, you weren't very happy, were you? And you went on Radio Leeds, didn't you? And you let your unhappiness flow over on the airwaves, didn't you? And you weren't happy with.
Yeah, it's like at work. I had a bad day last week. I remember it was shocking. Like, well, not shocking, but it would a poor shift from me. Let's say for a few reasons, but that happens. It's called life. It's called shit happens, and it's life. But I don't get where it's come from, Matt. It's like I put a few tweets out last night trying to get a bit of kind of reaction and stuff like that as well, and 1 or 2 did reply. But it's like, for me, since someone hit the nail on the head, since the Premier League, the dynamic in the stands seems to be totally different. And I'm not, obviously there's always, what I understood, are they a championship club? I've always thought we're a bottom half championship club, but there were so many people, and again, a couple of my mates said at half time there were people saying, I can't believe we're losing to shit like Lincoln. But anyone knows we are for brains. I just think there's so many
been going as long as me and you knows that we're very, very capable of losing to teams.
Yeah, we are. But it's just like no one. Maybe it's just modern day sport, but like I'm just thinking, well, hang on a minute. It's like if it's last year, even then I just can't condone abuse, because we're talking abuse here. We're not talking boo, but there was some vicious abuse dished out. It was like all the old wounds had reopened, and I'm thinking, what's happened here? So it's like with 9 games, we've had this great run. It's just
8 home wins in a row as well.
Yeah, 8 home wins in a row. We've still got half the game to turn it around, but people were chucking it in. There were half of that where I was stood were downstairs. Just this is shit, and I'm just thinking, we're just having a bad afternoon. It does happen, and we can still turn it around. But where's this? Come on, we can do it. And it's just like there were none of it. And again, all the old agendas were coming out. The people were having to go the usual suspects and stuff, and nobody were immune. I get Ward were poor and stuff, but and yeah, I'm not naive enough to think, come on, Huddersfield, come on, mate, and all this lot. But it was awful, and it was just like, I'm just thinking, wow, is this what it's going to be like every home game this season when we're losing? What happens if Burton go 2 up on the 29th, or even Stockport? Maybe people might think, well, Stockport are up there. But it's like, is this how it's always going to be in League One? Because it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking. And I'm just thinking, obviously you, Phil, I think sure we've talked about the subject many times, but as a player, mate, it's just, if you'd have said, if you said to a stranger, by the way, mate, this team that everyone's abusing and going downstairs, and they're like unbeaten, they're like 9 home games. They're 4th in the league. We out playing really well. We out a decent striker. And yet the vitriol, they're booing, it's just terrible. where's it come from though? Because this were never Town. It never were like this. We've never been the most optimistic, but where has this vitriol and hatred come from and stuff? Is it now because we're in League One, we're just expected to win all them games? Because it would almost, I came away from Mansfield thinking, we're on the same page. The fans and the team are on the same page. It feels like we're finally there. And all that, carry on that we've had before, even last season. They're getting there. Even that celebration, and we touched on it last week, but it was almost like it all chucked out the window just because we were 2-0 down, albeit playing really badly and everyone playing badly. But that really upset. It upset me, did that? I think it did upset me because I'm just thinking, it's not right. It's not right. Michael Duff and his team don't deserve it. But yeah, I don't know. It just makes me really sad because I thought we were getting there, like on the same page, and it was as if we won. And yet the club were tweeted out there, and it were bollocks. So thanks to your magnificent sport, that's bullshit, mate. And
you wouldn't expect them to say, "Stop being a set of wankers," would you?
No, but it's like when we did close, I'm like,
it'd be nice if they did. It'd be funny.
Yeah, but maybe some people say, "Well, this is football," and someone did tweet me saying, "Well, hang on a minute, I can't get with this team and this that." Okay, but just don't say it or whatever. But it's just like. Some of the abuse was shocking, though. It was just so bad. Try out, Duff, you fucking shit. And like, what? We're 9 games. It's just no.
I don't know at what point though I don't know at what point it turns though, because people keep saying the same things, don't they? I mean, how many games do they have to win before they'll be cut some slack? That's what I'm kind of thinking, because I do get the frustration sometimes, because I think Stephen Chicken pointed out, didn't he, in his conclusions afterwards, he said it's the first time we've come back from 2 goals down to get something since 2015, and that's almost 10 years, isn't it? So yeah. So you kind of get where frustrations come from, because you talk, we'll throw Neil Wayne under the bus. Should we throw Neil under the bus? I don't think he listens, does he? Anyway, but Neil's always like, if we go 1-0 down, and it's factually right, because when we used to do the pod and stuff, we used to go 1-0 down, and that was it. We were done. And he used to say one and done. Anyway, yeah, he used to say one and done, and it wasn't wrong. So we're not throwing him under the bus. We're actually agreeing with him. But he used to say things like one and done, and then we'd never come back. So when Town start conceding, people just go, "Oh, it's happening again. This has been the same for 10 years, etc." And it's hard. I suppose it's hard when you look at the pitch and you've still got. Without saying, I'm not saying these guys are rubbish, but Matty Pearson on there, you've got Kasumu, you've got Hellick, you've got Turton, Ruffles, and they were all part of that relegation team that went down, and people felt very, not betrayed by, but very disappointed by, I think, in a lot of ways. So those old frustrations are bubbling. It's not a new team that they can get behind, etc. It's the same players that they didn't like last year, and I suppose when you're jilted, Kosi, it's hard to sort of come around and love it. I don't agree with it, by the way. I'm just trying to look at it from another angle of what it might be. I think there's an age of social media pressure now as well, whereby everything's got to be the perfect goal. Everything's got to be a highlight reel. Everyone's concentration levels are absolutely appalling, and we can only consume things in so many letters or 1 or 2 minutes 20 on Twitter, etc. And I just don't think patience is something that's there anymore. And in society, I mean, on Sunday in society, I was stuck in traffic coming through Armley in Leeds, and I would look to the side, and there's a kid pushing a trolley in the middle of Armley. There's no supermarket for about half a mile, and he just ran at this other guy walking the other road, minding his own business, just smacked him with his trolley. And you just think, what's going on in society these days? I don't know. That's got nothing to do with Huddersfield, but it's just. I just think there's a change in society since COVID. I think there has, and people sort of went and lived their lives online and could say what they wanted online, and now it's they're back in the real world. It's a little bit different, and I don't like it. I don't condone it. I don't condone any form of abuse. I never abuse players. I might say some things I regret from time to time on this podcast, and often I do apologize quite quickly, but I just don't think it's right. I'm with you, Kosi. I don't think it's right on any level that people are saying you're using the C word and stuff and spitting vitriol at players. I don't get it. That's not why I go to football. I don't understand why it'd be anyone's choice to go to football so they can get this frustration and this anger out. And it's like, well, maybe it's not football you need. Maybe it's a therapist you need, something. But it's just, I don't get why people get so angry at a football game. I go to enjoy football. I know it's hard to enjoy it when you're watching Huddersfield sometimes, but I go to enjoy it. And if we lose, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. My first instinct or inclination isn't to then abuse loads of people online. If you notice me on social media, I'm one of those fair weather tweeters where I'll post something if we win. If we lose, I just think I'll leave it for a few days because no good comes of moaning on online, etc. And I'm not saying I'm perfect or the role model for it or anything. It's just the way I am. I just don't understand why people would get abusive. I just don't get it. Maybe if you're listening, you can put in the comments as to why that's the way. But I just don't agree. I suspect we won't get any replies from people who do abuse in that.
And Phil, surely the players ain't gonna I'll show them. I think it just goes the way bollocks.
It worked, Kosi. It worked for the first time in 10 years. On the flip side, but it's definitely not because of that.
It's pathetic. I'm sorry, but it's some of it is absolutely pathetic, and I'm getting bored of it now. When I go to the games, I sit in a quiet area too, and it's not so quiet sometimes. And there's a couple of things that really bug me. The language that they use when there's kids around, especially in a kind of what we call a family area, the language that they use is appalling, knowing full well there's kids around. Players are bigger enough and ugly enough to kind of accept all this stuff anyway, but it doesn't help. It 100% doesn't help them. If you think your fans don't like you, brilliant, well done, class. What are you going to do for that team? Right, because half of those players don't live in Huddersfield. So first and foremost, if you're an Huddersfield fan, you want to work for the badge and that's it, right? Some of these players are from Liverpool or wherever. So what are you going to do? They keep slating you. You know, Ladapo up front, fans are kind of belittling him and taking a mick. Where's his mindset? What's he going to think? That was embarrassing. What the fans are doing there, that was absolutely embarrassing. Because he's low on confidence already, and all we want to do is shout a load of crap towards him and jeer him when he brings a touchdown. He's going through a tough time, that lad, right? And maybe he ain't good enough as I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest. As long as he works hard and runs on the field and does his best, I'm not really bothered. But Matt, you hit the nail on the head. I think some of them do need a therapist. They're going to a football match, and the veins are sticking out the face. They're getting annoyed because things aren't going well. And because of what you mentioned earlier, the people go on social media and they say we're all entitled to an opinion. 100%, yeah, of course you are. Some of your opinions are shocking. They're absolutely horrendous. Some of the stuff I read on social media, you have no idea what those players might be getting told or what they're doing. I get for effort and stuff, but you're deluded because they'll still see it and people tell them what they're seeing, and it's this vicious cycle. And then someone will go, well, they should be big enough. If they're gonna go out and play football, then they need to be able to take it. Well, yeah, they do, yeah, but unfortunately, people do find feedback like that hard. So there's a whole number of things that really bug me, but I do think it's from the fact that it's been so poor from the Premier League that we are just in this negative kind of mindset as fans. Not so much in terms of let's go and have a go at the players, but we do literally think, oh, here we go again. This ain't going to end up well, blah, blah, blah. We've just come off the back of a winning streak. And they're losing the red in the stands. It's mad.
Unbelievable.
Matty Pearson's scoring from corners and winning games for us. And all of a sudden, he's public enemy number one because he's getting left isolated out wide and he's having to play against a young kid who's quicker than him and he's got to rip him for pace. And we're slating him. It's absolutely horrendous. Honestly, some of the stuff is cringeworthy. And majority of it's from adults. And they've probably got their kids with them. And then what their kids are doing is they're following that kind of behaviour. And then it goes back to the societal thing. Where's our role models? We've got these people who are sticking fingers up, throwing stuff onto pitch, swearing at other fans. I get that. Do you know what I mean? There's a little bit of a to and fro in that. I enjoy watching that the other day, fans getting at each other. It's that passion, isn't it? But Jesus Christ, it's 40, 50, 60-year-old men losing this shit at games. It is absolute. And there's some 70-year-olds too. And it's mental. And they go inside under the stand and it's just a constant whinge fest. And, it gets to a point sometimes where I can understand if some fans try and stay away, to be honest. Because it just becomes frustrating. I know that's a little bit of a whinge, but,
sometimes, Phil, I just think if football makes you unhappy... If football makes you so unhappy, why do you go?
I can't believe it.
Honestly,
they didn't deserve the comeback. Them guys who were doing that, they didn't deserve it.
What's that, sorry?
They didn't deserve the comeback, Phil. it was just amazing seeing them same people going mental at Lincoln, like get in there. Just thinking, what? Half an hour ago, mate, you weren't even here there and be abusing everyone. It's like, how can you just turn it on and off like that? I just don't get it. It's
I get the fact that if results aren't going right, fair to us. Let's be upset about performance and stuff, but let's not go like individual on people and tell because it's not getting anywhere. Because people will see it at some point, and it will affect some players. 100% it will. So let's just try and let's worry about the performances. Yeah, that's fine. The results. Yeah, results are crap. Blah blah. Let's just try and find a little bit of positivity from somewhere. It's Christmas. You know what I mean? It's Christmas time.
I think I said on this podcast.
I didn't hear one Christmas song at the game. To be fair, I don't even think
I tried last week, Phil. I did try and drop the seed of last Christmas. I gave you.
Yeah, but they're all asleep around your end, Matt. So they're not gonna. They're not gonna hear.
I know. I said it on the podcast, but the very next day, I gave it away this year to save me from tears. To Josh Carroll, no bites.
I'll bring that Headley thing in as well, because I think being a wide player at Town's even worse, because you're at the sidelines hearing it more and more and more. And I look at Headley and then again debate whether he's good enough or not, but I saw it's like on he came on and like he had a direct impact, and it's almost like his confidence has been crushed by a lot of the supporters, and I think it's sort of almost like I'm just kind of all these memories come back. I mean, again, it might be a bit too harsh to say ruffles and turns, but surely they're going to hear it because they're out wide, and it's just like. It's being a wide player at Town. You've got to have big balls. I think.
Dave Cowling syndrome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Remember when we did the thing with Dave Cowling, and he used to say what stick he used to get, and people used to run up and down when you could stand behind the goal, stand in the stadium. People used to run at him all the time and stuff, and it's just mental, isn't it? It's
You do have to listen. You do have to have a thick skin, but at the end of the day, it just don't help, does it? I mean, and
no.
all that's happening is you're making yourself feel better by shouting on. That's all it is. You're making yourself feel better. It's not helping anyone else.
It's like that Burton game. If we're 2-0 down at Hunter Burton, and that there's going to be all hell, and part of me thinks like, can I be asked just like to sit with standing people that abuse, and it's a shame. It's like this. I just couldn't pinpoint when it started, and like I say, it might be COVID, it might be other stuff, but. And I'm not.
I think it's always been there. I think it's always been there to a point with Town fans. I do.
Not anger and hatred's really ripped up a notch.
Yeah, I didn't see it, so I can't comment on Saturday.
I think it's every
where I sit. Where I sit, I don't see stuff like that. I sit in a more, like I said,
every club. Every club's got fans that do it. They all do. It's just a thing, isn't it? It's just a foot. I went to watch Huddersfield Rugby Union a couple of weeks ago. What a fantastic atmosphere. There's lads on the pitch smashing each other to pieces. Yeah, worthy of a scrap between each other. And the fans at the side of the pitch are brilliant.
Yeah.
Some players struggled in the game, probably made a couple of mistakes, so not one word said. Do you know what I mean? And then you go to a football match and everyone's like baying for blood. And
Phil, when we got that goal back, the dynamic. It's just a shame that I know it's a.
We start singing again, don't we? We find his voice and we start.
It was, and it was ace, wasn't it? It was like
everything's nice.
And I was thinking, wow, if we got a third here, what we'd give to lose a shit over Lincoln fans, it would have been unbelievable. But then I thought, I just don't think our supporters kind of deserve that turnaround. We nearly got it, but it's
going back to what you said earlier, and this is my last part of it all. It's funny when you talk about social media, because I always see this thing about our fans say, I don't have an affinity with this team. I can't. Right, when do we? When do we do that? Is it when we've won the league?
Yeah,
that's what.
Because all I see is that I can't relate to them. I don't. But how does this? How does it work? Because it went quiet for a couple of weeks when we started winning, and then after that game at the weekend, I started seeing it creeping again in social media. When do we actually have an affinity with our players? And think, right, yeah, we're as one. I don't get it. Is it a song? Is it something we do after the game? Do we have to win every game of the season? Do we need to get promoted? I don't get it.
I need to get a turnover in players, I think, to be honest, Phil. I think, like I said, I think some are still a bit hurt by last few seasons and those players involved. But
they're still here, and they're still here, and they're still grafting for Huddersfield Town, and they're still trying to do the best on a Saturday. So when does it all change? Do they just not like these players? Matty P scores week in, week out, but Matty P's been involved in a relegation season, etc. But now he's doing all right this year.
I always thought he was a very Huddersfield Town player, Matty Pearson, because he's agricultural, he sticks his head out, whatever. He's like Peter Clark 2.0 in a lot of ways.
Did you see that one that he did at weekend where he should have just kicked it and he went down and tried heading it? Is that when he got injured?
I don't know. But Brian
Ball
Law,
came
is it
down,
like
ball
Brian
came
Laws?
down the wing, and instead of just kicking it, he bent all the way down near his knees and tried heading it.
It's funny.
It's
I like him, but we'll move on because we've laboured the point, haven't we? I mean, let's talk about the second half and the little bits of shades of 2003-4. We mentioned this on WhatsApp, didn't we?
Rambo mentioned it at half time. He was quite sorry, Matt, to butt in, but they were half time. Joe and Rambo, he had his wind up and he was saying 2-0 down, but like we wanted to. And it was quite funny, and their fans heard it all. They're like, woo. And so I just thought, Rambo, I'd love it to happen again, but I just can't see it. So I love the fact he dropped it in, and lo and behold.
Yeah. So Ruffles and Turton hooked at half time. Tactical changes. Brodie on for Pearson just before, which was a positive change, really, because Brodie had a really good game. And Marshall and Lasse Sorensen came on as well. Or is it Sorensen? I don't know how they do it these days. A bit of a change of shape, and Town got the response they needed. Brodie scoring almost immediately in the 50th minute, and it came from a Josh Koroma cross having been put out wide. And I think these are the days where you can kind of say your manager earns your money. I mean, okay, maybe he didn't get it right from the off, but he's made the positive changes at half time, hasn't he? We're big Duff men on this podcast, Phil. We all love Michael Duff. And he's made those positive changes, and Josh Koroma's gone down the left, put it across, and Brodie's cushioned it into the corner. It's a nice header. It's unmarked, so Lincoln fans will probably do what we do on that one and say that they should have done better, etc. But it's, from our point of view, it's good movement, good run, good cross, good header. Back in the game. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between Lincoln's and ours, I think, we had a pretty set position, and you can see that ball coming across the goal. I was pretty disappointed with the defending there for ours. I mean, check your shoulder, don't let the man run across you. Simple as that. Let him beat you at the back stick. But I think Koroma's, because it was a little bit closer, I don't think the defenders really could adjust the position, so it was just inevitable. But what was really good about that second half was we was getting it into wide areas. I thought Hildred was brilliant. Moving across, he played more like a left side midfielder, and he was the kind of link up in those areas. And when we try and get in behind the other team, it's really difficult for them to defend it. And for me, that's Koroma's position, out wide, getting at the fullbacks, and their fullback was shocking. Their right fullback was shocking, and I don't think we exploited that enough. But there were a number of reasons. I think Spencer brought on that extra pace, so a little bit more reliable on the counter, covered a lot of ground. And Callum Marshall is just a pest. He's brilliant, and I think he's what was needed. And Kosi, obviously, I think Kosi has been outstanding. When you go back to saying no one played well in that first half, I think he did. He covered loads of ground. He won a lot of ball. But I think Callum Marshall, it was what we needed, because they won every battle in that first half. They were winning balls in the air. Up top of the pitch, the centre halves were winning the balls in the air all the way through the game. And he came on and kind of ruffled a few feathers, got stuck in, and I think that made the difference. And it was just a little bit more dynamic then. And like I say, with Koroma out wide, we had those areas where we could engage in behind them. And I still don't think we probably did it enough, but it was enough for a good start of the second half.
Have we upset the referees again? Because this last week has just been ridiculous, really. I mean, we go back to 2003-4 again. Phil, there was a Stonewall penalty turned down in that game for handball, wasn't there, when it was headed across, and the guy pretty much puts his hands up and catches it, which was ridiculous. And the referee tried not to give the foul and boo, didn't he, for the equaliser, but the linesman saved us on that one. But I mean, anybody who says these things even out over the course of a season clearly does not watch Huddersfield Town after the last few seasons. You clearly don't, because that's 3 shambles in a week, isn't it, against us? You got the Mansfield keeper going in at knee height and Josh Koroma. You got the second goal for Bolton was handball, which is unfortunate for Jacob Chapman, but the rules are if it hits his hand, it's disallowed. And then this penalty decision on Ben Wiles, which you went to watch Huddersfield Rugby Union, Phil. I mean, that's a tackle straight from that game, isn't it? And the look on his face afterwards.
It was a better tackle.
Yeah, the look on, I think it's Ruin, isn't it? The left-sided centre-back who's a decent player. The look on his face afterwards was like, oh, what have I done? And you could see he knew it was a penalty, and the referee doesn't give it, and it's unbelievable. And some moron in our WhatsApp group said he wasn't sure it was a penalty, didn't they, Kosi?
Wow.
Drinking again of that.
Did you is that what you said, Kosi? Did you think it was a penalty?
I did watch it back, Phil, and I was like, no, I didn't see it one. I'm not sure, but you were like, people were like, you're joking, aren't you? And then
Wow.
I must have missed an angle. I don't know how I can get myself out of this hole here, but
You can't.
Say it one. I didn't think it was honestly when I watched it
clear.
back. It gets worse.
You could see live. You could, from where I was sat kind of like opposite the 18-yard box.
I were at the wrong angle.
Well, yeah, you were miles away. Yeah, you were in the jungle, weren't you?
I'd love to see Kosi in the jungle.
It was so obvious. It was so obvious. But yeah, I mean, the referees are poor out there. You know, there's been some shocking performances from some of the refs. So you can't really not expect it. We're going to get plenty of
I thought he was all right up until an hour. Post did as well. I thought he wasn't forward for any bollocks, this guy, and then he just lost it in the last half hour, which it was really odd. But again, I just think them where were the lights for though? It's just like
Well, he waited for the line, and that's what he did. The referee bottled it. So as soon as it happened, the referee looked at the liner, and the liner just kept his flag by his side. So the referee bottled it really because he had a clear line of sight.
It's clear. It's clear. I mean, it doesn't even need to look at the assistant referee or linesman or whatever. No. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we need to say anything else. I don't think there's a link. I saw a lot of Lincoln fans trolling and what have you over some towns and whatnot, and I don't think any of them actually thought it wasn't a penalty, which was bizarre enough. Yeah. So everyone thought it was a penalty. So I don't think we really need to go over it too much.
I know VAR, because when it scores against you like this, you want it in. But I honestly think because these games are all televised now and everything, and they get some of the camera footage you watch now, it's brilliant. It's almost like watching a proper live. Well, it is live, isn't it? But like a proper outside broadcast, BBC, Sky. I honestly think that VAR will be in even at our level. I used to say Championship, but like in League One soon. But trouble is, would you? You going about the room with
I'd rather not. To be honest, I'd rather not. Unless they find a way of speeding it up. I'd rather not. I mean, offside should be quick, shouldn't they? They should be quicker than what they are. That should be. But I mean, stuff like that. I just sort of think referees should be better. They should give that, and I don't think you shouldn't really need VAR for that kind of decision when it's so obvious. But
I think that's given Matt, and obviously we score because that's not guaranteed. We missed his last penalty, didn't we? But I honestly win it from there. But
I think if we score the pen, we win the game. That's why I think that's why it's frustrating because we'd have had the momentum. We'd have had a bit more about us.
They were back.
I mean, we could have run out of steam and Lincoln won, but you know, we're Huddersfield fans. We're gonna back them out.
What amazing though, how the game just changed. They always say that 2-goal lead's a dangerous lead. I always laugh at that, but it was really weird because I just thought they were just like pen back in, and we were out like creating billions of chances. You just looked. I just thought, how can you have a game like as mad as another proverbial 2 halves? It were incredible, wasn't it? They were gassed. They were gone. Were Lincoln? They were absolutely gone. And
they looked knackered. I thought. I think they looked shattered. I think they ran out of options. I think the lads up top worked really hard for them. I mean, that was he the left winger or right winger? The big lad. He was absolutely blowing out his ass, and they dragged him off, didn't they? Because he were a bit of a threat. I can't remember his name now, but. I think they worked hard, so I think they ran out of options and ideas, and I think we took all of the game. And when you got players like Herbie Kane who can manipulate a ball really well, you know, he chooses good options. He doesn't always go down the side you'd expect, but I think he tries switching play well, and you know we looked pretty effective, didn't we? So, but I think they're just tired, and I think we'll see that a lot through the season because at this level. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of attributes that, you know, the players don't have, and fitness can generally be one. And I remember thinking about Wrexham away; they looked knackered, didn't they, as well, when we played them? So I think it's an area of the game where we need to exploit towards the end.
Phil, you know what I like about Herbie Kane? What I think a town midfield is a tough one because you've seen so many over the years that because the crowd they expect picture perfect passes and they get on the backs of the door, but he always wants the ball. He always shows for the ball. Yeah. I think it shows big character in a tough environment like our stadium. And I love it, mate. I love the guy even more every week because he just wants it. And yet it won't go in that well. Some of his passing in the first half were pretty poor. But you know what? He put his hand up, give me the ball, give me the ball. I love it. I just think if he got injured, would be in big trouble more than I think losing any other player on that in our team, in my opinion. I think
Kosi would be your biggest loss. I think he's been absolutely outstanding. He's been different gravy.
Could potentially. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of him, have we? But nobody's got the speed of Kosumu, have they, to get those second balls and what have you? That's it. I mean, Hoggy would, if fit. Obviously, Hoggy's going to be out for a while, but he would probably replace Kasuma, but he doesn't have the same pace and ability to get around, does he? But he's got
Collinson again goes down. We're cursed, aren't we? We're absolutely
cursed. We are. We are absolutely. The last few years, I mean, I don't know if Canalside's been built on an old burial ground or something. Do you know what I mean? An old cemetery or something. It's just absolutely cursed, aren't we? But
he looked distraught,
let's talk about
against his own team, though. It would be, wouldn't it? I mean, even any days, but it's against his own team.
Those pictures that they train on are pictures that they trained on years ago when I was about 12, 10, 11, 12. There's nothing wrong with them.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the equaliser, because it's a nice goal. It's made in Northern Ireland as well, isn't it? Brody plays a great ball into Marshall. It's such a great touch, isn't it, from Callum Marshall? And he's had a really rough, and the confidence to do that after the sort of bad run he's been on, where he's struggled, hasn't he? And he's got the sternum issue, whereby he's got bruising, hasn't he, on his chest? And it's just such a great touch, and he deserved the deflection to go his way as well, didn't he? Because he hits it, and the keeper does quite well to get the foot to it, and it just bobbles up into the net. But I think Marshall deserved that. I think Town deserved that as well. And it's a good moment for Callum Marshall. And you hope it's just that moment now where you can think, right, he's had a little dip in form, and now's the time to take off again and push on. And hopefully that's going to be the catalyst filled for Callum Marshall. Because, like you say, he is a pest. He's awkward. Sometimes he struggles within some games, and Duff takes him off at half time. But that's what you get with young players, isn't it? And
yeah, well, that's it. He's a young kid, and the thing is, strikers, as much as we talk about your Wardies, etc., I think it makes a big difference to our team when he's flying. As much as we talk about him, they've got to have the right kind of service, and I think Crome has struggled a little bit in terms of when the ball comes to his feet and holding the ball up. They win the ball off him way too easy. He likes to be facing play instead of having his back to play, and it's a totally different position. But Marshall obviously thrives off good ball. And what I'm seeing from him is that he's having to chase a lot of loose balls, which is pretty difficult really as a young lad as well, especially a lad who's not as big as the rest of the players on the pitch. So he's learning. It's a learning curve for him, and it's an outstanding learning curve for him, to be honest, because when you're playing first team football, it makes a hell of a difference. I think we'll see the best of him if we start playing a little bit more higher up the pitch and getting better balls into him. But no, I'm pleased for him. It's a really difficult one when you're young, and if the gaffer does decide to kind of use you like that and bring you off at half time and things in terms of confidence. But I'm hoping that, and I'm with you, I like Duff, I'm hoping that the conversations that they have behind the scenes will help him understand why things are in place for him, so that he doesn't lose that confidence. Because when I see him play, I don't look like a player that's lacking in confidence. It looks like a hungry young lad who wants to impress. And that's the main thing. So yeah, I think it was nice that he got the goal. And he made good contact with it. You could see he hit it pretty quick. So a nice striker's instinct in the box, fox in the box, and like I say, got a bit of a lucky deflection. Maybe keeper could have done a little bit better, but yeah, a good goal for us really.
Made in Northern Ireland, the goal, eh?
Made in Northern Ireland, yeah, that's it. And Spencer's in the same boat of that as well, because Spencer's only young, isn't he? And we can talk about Spencer being this international player, but he's still learning. They've obviously not got many players to choose from in Northern Ireland, so he's really lucky that he's going to get some good experience, and he's still learning. So
I think
you're going to talk about Conor Bradley, aren't you?
Another thing I liked about the film, when we scored, let's get the winner. Let's get the ball back.
Yeah.
No massive celebrations, knee slides, or all that. Let's get the ball back. Just little signs that I just think, this kind of group is
mentality.
Bonding a little bit, which
get Noy. Get the ball, Noy. That's what we
get the ball. That's a good one.
Get Noy.
Brody. He never really materialised, though, did it? The kind of kitchen sink job later at the end.
No.
There would a ball through. I don't know what it before the goal where. When it Headley that put it in, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah. Good ball from Headley.
I don't think Ladapo I don't think he gambled enough. I don't think he's got to get in front of his, in front of the first man, and I think he hung back a little bit. So that was a great ball.
That's usually Freddie's bread and butter, we'll call it. Yeah. But he didn't quite go in for that one, which is strange. I mean, in the 96th minute, there's another quite shambolic bit of refereeing again, as Lincoln have a free kick that goes into the box, and Monsma clatters Hellick with an elbow. I don't think it's intentional. because he's intentionally swinging at Karoma, and then Helic's like the collateral damage to it, and he smacks Helic in the face. It's quite a blatant one, and then there's a little after where there's a lot of people claiming that Mons was spat at Helic, and there's video evidence, but I've watched it back and I can't quite see the spit, if I'm honest. And I know Helic reacts, but the way Helic reacts, Helic doesn't wipe anything off his face or anything like that you would expect if he's been spat on. So I'm not entirely sure. And when at the full time when you can see he runs over to the referee. He's running over with his elbow, like complaining about the elbow. He's not complaining about a spit. Whereas you would think, Phil, you've played football. If you're elbowed or spat at, it's the spit which you're going to complain about most, isn't it?
Yeah,
Not
100%.
So I don't think he has actually spat.
It looked like he'd just gone over to him and probably said something like, "You deserve that," or "Get up," you know what I mean, or just something on those lines. It looked like he'd actually said something to him and not. You know.
The annoying thing, just especially what's happened, you know, with Pearson Longleat's got a booking, hasn't he? That's put him, you know, it's frustrating, but he had to do it, didn't he? But it's like.
Well, that's come from another refereeing errors that where Longvikes had to make a foul after the guy handballs it and he didn't give the handball, which is really frustrating. But yeah, Kosi, you weren't convinced either with the spit thing. I don't think anyone.
No, a lot of people, you know, kind of.
I mean, has Helic come out and said anything?
No, I haven't seen anything.
No. I don't think, can he? Because I'm sure he'd said something.
I think there's something that had been said post match. I know there were.
Is book your tickets quickly for April. I think it's April the 1st. That's it, man.
Yeah.
That's going to be good. And
should have it Saudi with the rest of the box.
Lincoln look decent, so I think they'll be hovering about them playoff spots. So it will be. Yeah. But it's just one of those big games. We've had the playoff. We had the Pavel Abbott carry on. But it's still Lincoln. It's just one of those bizarre. A bit like Peterborough, maybe just.
We've played them one season since 1983. That's 41 years, and there's enough incident in the games between Huddersfield and Lincoln to one league game, I should say, or one league season. And there's enough incident there in 41 years. There's more incident than what there is with other teams we've played in that time, and a lot more than them. It's quite interesting, really. It's a funny little thing. It's almost like a Peterborough style dislike developing, isn't there? In some ways, I don't dislike them, to be honest. It's quite a nice place.
What were your feelings coming out of the game? Because I just thought we were due a draw, and I thought it might be this game, but you could have think, well, it's a home game, we could have won. But I was quite pleased with the point, and I think Lincoln might have been at the end, even though they kind of blew a 2-goal lead. But coming away, I just couldn't see a way back at half time, and as much as you wanted to, I just didn't see it. And the way it started, the first 2 minutes of that second half. It were awful, like start for us. They were in our half, and I thought nothing's changing here. And then, so to come out of there with 2-2, yeah, all right, you know, the goal, the penalty that should have been given, etc. But I just thought again it was another tick in a positive box for us because part of me thought, how can you just be as bad as we were in the first half when we've been on that run? But it does happen, a bad day. But I just kind of come away thinking, all the injuries and the stuff. It's so frustrating, isn't it? Pearson now, Longwick's booked. It's all of a sudden, I think Duff said we're down to about 18 fit players. Matt, you reckon it might be 16 now? And it's
potentially.
Yeah, because it sounds like, Anthony Evans is far away from coming back. It sounds like they don't know what, obviously that Topher thing, you'll probably know a bit better than me for being an ex-player, but that ain't going to get right anytime soon. So there's Hogs 6 weeks. It's just coming at a bad time, isn't it, with Christmas and stuff. There's all these games. Is it 9 games, Matt, or 6 in a space with a Wickham game? It's thank God we've got a decent big squad, because if we didn't have, we'd be in deep doo-doo. But it's going to be all hands to the pump. Really difficult time in and that as well, I think, the next few weeks for us.
Yeah, tough time.
I mean, Sorensen's gone off injured again, hasn't he? Which we hope's not too bad, because it was good. He was quite good when he came on against Bolton, and then he made a difference against Lincoln. And he's very positive. Is Sorensen? So hopefully he's not too bad. And you were quite impressed a little bit, I think, Kosi, with Headley's cameo, trying to maybe play himself back.
I haven't given up on him too much. I haven't given up on him like pretty much everyone else. But to me, it's almost like, what's his strengths? I don't think defensively is his strength. So
ball carrier, isn't he?
I feel for him, because I feel like he can't do anything right. He played a little 1-2 with Karoma, and it just kind of came off his knee, and Karoma that was nice little play, and then it was a little high five on it, and then Karoma just wanted a little bounce pass, but he had a touch and then played it, and Karoma started having a go at it, which I thought were really poor. Ball got played past him and he slipped, and I just said like he just can't seem to do anything right, and it's not for want of trying, but it just seems things just don't seem to go right for him, because on his day,
that Birmingham game with Warnock, unbelievable.
He's a real handful.
Burst into the box on Saturday, but he was unbelievable. I just thought, wow, there's not many that can do that in our team. So,
no.
I'm Duff. How can I get the best out of this?
Yeah.
How could you play him as a winger, maybe, or what?
I mean, I would. I'd give him that kind of. I'd give him freedom just to say, go and just get at your man, get him isolated, and just get at him. And put a ball in the box. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think you could do the same with Koroma on the other side. You know, two quick players in the league, but I don't know. Yeah, and he's a likable guy, and you can see he seems like a nice guy, and you can see that a lot of people like him in the club. So, but he just doesn't seem to be quite going right for him.
He just feels a bit broken, doesn't he? In that, It's going to be one of those where he'll go elsewhere and he'll do really well somewhere, and everyone will go, "Why didn't he do that with us?" And it's situations, isn't it? And I think he'll go somewhere.
Without bare bones, if you say.
I mean, Ben Jackson's gone to Barrow and he's doing really well. Something like that, I think, could be good for Headley. He'll drop down, maybe go back to Harrogate, something like that, and it might even, as long as he don't go to Bradford. That's the thing. That's the. But I think he can drop down and come back again. I think he'll do.
Yeah.
So Skubala, he was a bit strange after the game, wasn't he? A bit more skibbity toilet than Skubala. He's talking nonsense. He was complaining about how we got the decisions in favour of us, wasn't he? And he was complaining about the drop ball. Well, that's how referees have done drop balls for years, isn't it? Where it's to stop like the opposition from
drop ball. I can't get what he was meaning, because it was like
they've done that for years. The uncontested drop ball, though, instead of like having teams waste time by booting the ball over the stand and stuff, and they've just sort of done the uncontested thing now. But yeah, they've done it for years. I think he was just trying to deflect maybe from the, losing a 2-goal lead or something. But strange. I mean, the XG was slightly in favour of Town, but quite equal. So it probably shows that the result was probably fair in the end. I think 2-2, Kosi, you said. Yeah, it's probably
the only thing the refs did right, Matt, were push their players off to walk round this pitch rather than just take half an hour to get to the sidelines. I like that. When it was shoved, there were 2 or 3 where they were shoving them off, saying, "No, you're walking that way and that." But after that, that's all.
What happened to this extra? What happened to this 8 minutes that we were supposed to?
Yeah, I was thinking that, Phil. That we played about 3 minutes of it. We're like watching Spanish football. As soon as 8 minutes gone, he just blew whistle. I thought, it's another 2.
There'd been loads of stoppages, weren't there? And he just stopped it.
Maybe he just thought, fuck it, I need to get home. I've got a lift. Yeah.
It were all hell on the end. I took a picture. It's like about 6 people trying to shout at him, all Huddersfield Town people. Jesus.
I've got a lot of time for Duff. He comes across as one of those managers that you want to play for. I think he's got a bit of passion behind him, and you can see he cares. But to what extent, I don't know. But how many managers has he been picking on at the side of the pitch? Because he's constantly arguing with the other gaffers.
I mean, him and who was it? Him and Sean Maloney was a belter, wasn't it? The other week, that was a good one. Let's move on. So the Bolton game. I don't think we need to discuss the Bolton game too much. Kosi, you wanted to ask if anyone's bothered about the Bolton game and that we lost. I think the only sort of slight issue for me was that we played poorly, didn't we, for 90 minutes really against Bolton. That it kind of maybe, and Phil, you mentioned it earlier, maybe carried on a little bit into the Lincoln game. Losing Hoggy wasn't ideal, was it, in the warm up? I mean, I think I can't remember if it's the 4th or 5th time we've lost a player in the warm up this season, which it has to be a record. It's crazy, and we lost the game, and I can't really be too upset about it. To be honest, I'm not bothered. I mean, all these games that are coming up, the injuries that are happening, etc. I'm not bothered that we're out of any of the cups. If we get promoted at the end of the season, I will not give.
We touched on it last week, Matt. We needed. I think we needed that Man U game, didn't we? Like me and Killer were saying, and I honestly believe we needed that. And not saying it catapulted onto that great run, but I think we couldn't have signed up for that international break on the back of a stinking Crawley kind of result, really, in Tamworth. But yeah, I don't think we're too bothered. And it just showed on Saturday they lost at home to Wigan, mate. Didn't they? Didn't play well at all, and it kind of had no bearing really on
It's a bit strange, isn't it? In League One, Wrexham. You mentioned Wrexham's tiredness. They conceded late, didn't they, against Cambridge as well, which is
but Matt,
interesting. So you'll get some funny results at the minute, I think.
It goes back to like what we're saying. The disrespect is bad from a lot of our fans, and probably Wrexham's would have been saying, "Oh, who can't believe you joined with Cambridge?" But who are you? You've been in like lower divisions for like a few years and stuff, and who are we? All right, we've had been in Premier League, but you've got to earn it on the pitch, and I just think earn it in the stands and all. I don't like this.
You are on merit, aren't you? And we're here because we've been crap. So it's just the way it is, isn't it? It
is. That Stockport game is going to be a cracker on Boxing Day. I'm really excited about that already, to be honest. I know Cambridge is coming up first, but that should be a massive crowd.
I'm hoping someone nobbles Louis Barry just before that. That'd be good for us, because he's a very good player, isn't he?
Yeah.
So are we bothered? I'm not bothered. Are you bothered, Kosi? Phil, are you bothered? I don't think.
No, I think
that.
I think the early season, I think it's nice to have games. I think the players tell you they'd rather play games than train. But I think it gets to a point, like you've said there, that winning breeds that kind of confidence and that winning mentality. But when we're suffering with injuries like we are doing, I think it's just another game that there's less chance of anyone getting injured. So for me, no, I'm not really bothered about those cups. And I think if we were in this league for a while, I think I might change my mind, and it might be nice to have a bit of silverware or something. But at the moment, at this time, I think I'm happy enough with the gaffer having a bit of time on training ground, working with him and building what he thinks is the right Huddersfield Town.
Mate, it's unbelievable. We started it Bristol Street Motors Trophy and we ended up getting knocked out there too.
Kevin Nagle's been over. So Kev's been here. Yeah, he checked out H-Town for the first time. He's done a couple of interviews. Did one with Oggy. He's done one with Dave Carmichael in there. Oh, Dave Vigeland. He's done it in the back of the car, hasn't he? Where it looked like they're in a planetarium, which was a really nice effect there. But I do know the driver, and it outside the other week, and he's got a couple of nice vehicles as the guy. I mean, it's been more quiet. I think it's been a more reserved visit this time. Usually he does daily diaries and stuff, and they didn't really do a lot, which was fine. I think he's made it more about what he's doing behind the scenes and with the people at the club, rather than sort of like being here and boots on the ground, etc. All those things. And he does say, "I will say this much" on quite a few occasions. Does it? It's almost like his catchphrase, but it didn't really. He's not really said an awful lot. He's seen H-Town. H-Town looks brilliant. I've not been there yet, but it looks fantastic, and I think that's a feather in his cap.
Have you been in, Kosi?
No, not yet, Phil. No.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah. I saw Boothie in there. Boothie, we're doing a bit of talking. I had a bit of a chat with him. I said, I bet that's the first time he's been in that building, because he never went in when it was a gym. Honestly, I think it's brilliant, and geez, I mean, the money that the club will make from that, surely, because it would absolutely heaving. And it's crying out for a place like for our fans to go in before the game and after a game and watch a bit of footy. It's brilliant. Great atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely going to check that out at some point. Really I think the only other thing he got asked was, because it's close to January, will Huddersfield Town be active? And he said on Radio Leeds, he did the interview with Oggy. Oggy did a good job as always. He just says by the end of January, Town fans should be happy. There's which is fine. He's also said we want to be promoted. We know we need to make some changes, which is fine. So he's not said an awful lot. I think he might have set some unrealistic expectations in the car interview he did with Dave. I think he said something along the lines of like, we've got things lined up, and I think Town fans sometimes can read between the lines a little bit and kind of think, oh, we've got loads of stuff lined up to go on January 1st, but transfers don't always work that way, do they, Phil? No. You're often, it's like buying a house. You're in a chain, aren't you? And someone's got to buy the house first, and then they've got to then sell, and then someone's got to buy from them, etc. And I think when we talk about likes of Joe Taylor, etc. from Luton, I do think Luton will want to buy a striker first. Whoever Luton are buying that striker from might want to buy a striker first as well. So you're in this domino chain, aren't you, all the way down? And so I think anybody who's expecting, I will say this much: anybody who's expecting several signings in on January 1st is going to be disappointed, because it does not work that way. I mean, we'll all be delighted if that happens, but it's so very unlikely to be that way. So a little patience may need to be, a little virtue will be at the end of it.
I mean, I don't really follow any other clubs and who's playing well. You know, which strikers, midfielders, etc. So, who would be a good target for us in January?
I think we need 2 strikers, Phil. I think we're going to do. I'll do a podcast or an article on this at some point. But I think we need 2 strikers if we can move some out. I like Marshall as an option. I wouldn't send him back or anything. I like Josh Koroma as anything like that. But I do think we need a goal scorer, and we need someone who can stretch defenses.
Who's that then? Who is it then? Who is it?
Well, Joe Taylor's the one that's mentioned. He could score goals. He got 10.
And he suffered of injuries before.
No, he's only young. I think the one that got linked was Keon Itete, wasn't it, from Cardiff? Got linked the other day, and he's had injuries. For me, you need someone who can lead the line. I think Danny Ward's the only player we've really got in the squad that can do that at the minute. But he's obviously got his fitness issues, and he's getting, 34 now? He just turned 34. He's going to be able to do that every week. So you need someone who can stretch the line, maybe someone younger. I really like the 2 strikers in this league, which Town have probably got no chance of signing. Miles Leaburn, who plays for Charlton, I think is a really good player. The big guy whose dad was an absolute menace back in the day. And I like Ricky J. Jones at Peterborough as well. I think they're the kind of players who can stretch defences, get behind, use the pace, and create mischief through different ways, and get your players like Herbie Kane, Joe Taylor, if he's up the pitch to be effective. And I think that's we someone who could do that. So they'd be players that I would look at. Whether we could sign them is probably a different thing. I know Ricky J. Jones is out of contract at the end of the season, and he missed an absolute stinker at Northampton the other day from about 2 yards out. So maybe that might drop his price down by a couple of 100,000. It were an absolute shocker. But I just feel like we need someone to be a foil for a goal scorer. And then when obviously move up the leagues with us as and when that should happen. So someone young like Leaburn or J. Jones, but the chances of getting them is so difficult when you're in January and you're in the same division as the other teams. So you have to spend the money to get players like that. And can Town spend that kind of money with the rules that are in place, etc., and whatnot? I don't know. It'd be very difficult, but it's likely going to be a loan, Phil, from above, I think. I like that option. Where's young Dan's?
He's
went on loan in the Championship. I think he's on loan somewhere in the Championship. Is it Stoke or something? I might Google that.
There's plenty of options out there, isn't there? But they've got to be good enough, haven't they? They've got to hit the thing is they've got to hit the ground running. There's no time for them to settle in. January transfers have literally got to.
Do you think there's any chance at automatic? I still. Batman thinks it's still there, but
I do 100%. Yeah. You look at the league and you look at some of the results. There's no one really that stands out apart from Birmingham that I've seen.
Wycombe the good result of Saturday and Tuesday and that, but
I think you could still be. The thing is, you've just got to keep picking up points and being with a fight towards the end of the season. That's all, and not get too down, not get too stressed if a couple of results don't go your way, kind of thing. So. And Saturday's your prime example, isn't it? Saturday we've come back from 2-0 down. It's a great result. You're walking away from that ground, and to be fair, it's a good result in the end.
Big result.
So and you might have a few more of those. So if we can just keep picking up points, you never know. The league's weak. It's very weak.
Yeah, that's what. Going back to all that fan stuff, it's just beliefs building with a little bit with this group. Yeah. Almost as if it just chucked out of the window, but obviously just cool.
I've got some good news, Phil. Jayden Danns was linked with several teams in the summer, and he never actually ended up going anywhere. So there you go. Maybe that's
because I messaged his dad, and because there were rumours of him coming to us, and I messaged his dad, and he says I've not heard anything. So they had no idea what Liverpool, when all the rumours were coming out, they had no idea what Liverpool wanted to do with him. So that way, I sent two messages, and I got absolutely zero response. One from Danzy telling me nothing, and then one from Rob Edwards at Luton saying, if you let him go, please can he come to us first? And I got no response from either of them at all. So, the football, there's no friends in football. There's only acquaintances. I'm telling you that now.
Yeah, but yeah, there's probably options out there. So strikers are the hardest thing to sign, aren't they? That's always
Carl
the case.
Hudlin, mate, getting back from Newport.
Carl Hudlin, do you know, I watched him against Bradford, and he was an absolute menace against them. But
No,
maybe
sorry,
maybe that's his level for now.
Oh, God, menace. What do you mean by menace? Just got in the way.
He scored.
Surely.
I mean, he's playing against.
Well, they're going to score. They should score the bloody strikers. That's what they all should be doing. They've only got one job. Jesus Christ, goalies make loads of saves, and it's like strikers. All they have to do is score, put it between the sticks. One job. That's it.
Doesn't happen though, does it?
No, exactly. That's the problem. And worst thing is as well, strikers. How weird is this, right? I always talk about this. Strikers can go like through barren seasons. I mean, we've got Ladapo here now. They can go through seasons where they don't score goals, right? And all of a sudden, team below, oh yeah, there's a striker in the league above. We need to get him. So they get a move, and then they get another move, and then they get another move, and then they get another move. They get paid the most money out of everyone. Hate strikers.
All coming out.
You and David Hartrick should have a chat because he hates goalkeepers and he used to play strikers.
Who does?
So.
Who's that?
Dave Hartrick. He hates goalkeepers, so he thinks you should all be punished, or all of us should be punished. But yeah, Carl Hudlin's only got 4 goals this season, so he can stay where he is. But I watched him against Bradford, and he was
a menace.
Yeah, at that point he got 2 goals in 2 games, but he's only scored twice since. But he's playing, he's starting, he seems to be doing relatively okay.
I'm good.
Maybe leave him where he is for now.
I wanted him to do well because he's like you say, like he's a bit ungainly,
There's nothing more exciting than a cross coming into the box and a big striker flying in with a header, isn't it?
But he used to but he had a great ping on him. His technique, his striking the ball was really good, but he just never really got any.
Some weird stuff though, doesn't he? Like he's sort of like when the ball's played into him, he does do some weird make some weird choices, doesn't he? Like he'll try to do some flicks and you're like, what? Leave him where he is for now.
He's a poor man's John McAliskey.
He's a poor man's Kevin Francis, if you remember Kevin Francis.
Oh yeah.
He was about the same size, wasn't he? Favorite Christmas song? Well, it's Christmas coming up, isn't it? What's your favorite Christmas song? There's a song I like.
Got to be. Has to be.
Not that new version, Phil.
Oh no. We sing over it, don't we? We sing over it in the car.
Naughty man.
With the kids in the car, yeah.
Yeah, too right.
We've got a song I really like is Chris de Burgh, Spaceman Came Travelling, but it never gets on any of the playlists. It's an absolute banger, isn't it? I think it's a great song. It never really gets picked on any of the
Mariah Carey can do one. That's not a Christmas rubbish.
Do you like Slade and Wizard and things like that? There's
a little bit of Bing Crosby and Dean Martin, people like that. Do you know what I mean? They're proper Christmas songs. Yeah, a bit of David Bowie.
I heard the Dean Martin one had been. Some people were refusing to play it or something because it was a little bit sinister when you hear the words to it, and she's like trying to escape, and he's like, "Oh, but it's cold outside. You want to come here next to the fire?" And it's a little bit kind of creepy. So I think when you look at the lyrics, it's like, "Oh yeah, it's ruined for me now." Is that?
We're just looking after her, trying to keep her in house, keep her warm.
I know. Well, yeah. Yep, that's it. So,
what's your favourite Christmas song?
I don't really have one, mate. They made us do one at work, like Christmas song about loads of stuff. So I ended up Feed the World and that. But again, it's 40 years since
Feed the Ward.
Feed the Ward.
Did we tell you about the Christmas song they had to do at Town years ago? The Apprentices.
No.
So the first team, when Andy Morrison were there and Stewie and all them lot, and Andy Morrison went and approached the YTs and said, "We want you to sing a song in front of us all." Kind of like taking Mickey out of YT, so they had to sing there like that, singing a song. So the YT says, "Well, are we allowed to like take the Mickey out of a few here?" So he says, "Yeah, no problem." So they sang this song and they just ripped the shit out of all of them, all the players. And at the end, they had their hands behind the back, and at the end, they had bags of flour, and they just wanged them at first team players and legged out of the changing room. So they got to training day after, and it's where the canal side is now, but they were up on the top, so it's where all burnt out cars used to be from the estate behind and that. And they came over the bridge, and Andy Morrison was stood there, and he says, "Right," he says, "you've got 2 options." He says, "You jump in the canal, or I throw you in." So majority jumped in, but they were a lad called Mex, who are still seen now, like, and he was like, nah, man, I'm not jumping in anyway. Jock got him and threw him in. So yeah, that's probably one of my favourite Christmas songs.
What? Wait a minute.
It was massive.
Can't do
You
that
got
these
to
days,
get past
can
him, are you? Darren Bullock could probably behind him as well.
Yeah, can't do that these days, unfortunately,
No.
can you?
You're not allowed to have any fun anymore, are we?
No, just wouldn't throw a flower, would you? Just be
Flour. Gotta be eggs and flour. Gotta be eggs and flour. At least make it
extra
stick.
bombs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah. There's a draw for Town women as well this weekend. So Huddersfield Town.
Yeah, they're doing well, Matt. They're not conceding many goals, and it's there for them if they can put a decent run together after Christmas. They've got all their big hitters to play at home as well, which is quite good. But the defense is really strong, and yeah, it was a shame yesterday because they took the lead in that as well. And my good friend Mollish had a good chance as well to win it, but didn't win it. But yeah, it's kind of moving in the right direction there, Matt. So hopefully, they can get back up to tier 3.
Yeah, they had a sticky start, didn't they? And then they've had a good run recently. I think they're a bit disappointed. I was reading they're a little bit disappointed to draw against Stockport, and they felt they should have done enough to win the game. But there's like 5 or 6 teams up there, isn't there? Really close together who can. But there's only one promotion spot, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think you have to win the league, and I noticed Halifax were above, were like the top Yorkshire side or West Yorkshire side at the minute, which I didn't expect. But yeah, there's certainly lots of competition, and I think a couple of them are starting to play well. I think it's Stewart, isn't it, from midfield, who's been playing at number 10 because she's quite tall. I think they're putting balls in the box, and she's doing quite well from there as well. So hopefully they can manage to pick up a couple of wins over the next couple of weeks and move on from there. They were a little bit unlucky, weren't they, against I think they came up against Sunderland in the FA Cup, didn't they?
Full-time then, mate. Full-time team.
Yeah, it's a full-time team, and they had to battle the wind. They were against the wind in the first half as well, didn't they? And they kind of got a little bit.
Keeper's on loan from Man United. Bethany Woolen, she's like proper.
She's really good, isn't she? She's like 17.
Yeah, they've got quite a few players in from there as well. But yeah, there's honestly the people like they're going about like men's game being like difference between League One and Championship, but like it's incredible. Like with a women's setup, you go to some places. Like, because a lot of people are throwing money at like Newcastle are throwing a bit of money at it. I'm just looking forward to next year. Obviously, the Town and Leeds game was meant to be in the stadium, so I'm just hopefully it's talk of a game at the stadium. I hope that happens to start because I think a few would come. So
yeah, I think I'd go down if I think my little boy plays football on a Sunday morning, so as long as it doesn't conflict on his gymnastics on Sunday afternoon. But at the minute, they've got Chorley who are first on 26 points. Cheadle Town Stingers, that's a great name.
Yeah,
they're second on 25. Leeds United third on 25 points, and then Town are 3 points behind on 22. It's a shame they couldn't hang on against Stockport because that would have put them on 24 and in a really good position. And then there's Middlesbrough in 5th. They were on 21 points, but they've played 2 games less than Huddersfield and Leeds, and then that 6 points potentially they could put them top of the league. So there's 5 teams going for 1 slot there, which is really interesting. I know they've played Leeds away, haven't they? And they won, didn't they, at Garforth? And they played Middlesbrough away. Yeah.
Cheadle Town Stingers.
I know, it's a great name, that. It's a different name. It sounds like a rugby league semi-pro team's name, doesn't it? Cheadle Town Stingers or something. But I think that's it, isn't it? There's there's a gap, isn't there? So it's the top 5, and then the rest are like not way behind, but much sort of further adrift. So it's going to be interesting. So if you can get yourself down to Huddersfield Town women, do so. It's the standards for pretty good, and you can cheer on Beth Stanfield, who the podcast happily supports as well and sponsors. So I think that's it, boys, for this week. We've been angry at Town fans. We love Town fans in the same breath as well, don't we? And then we're disappointed with the result, and we're happy with the result. It's been a real up and down kind of podcast, hasn't it? So shades of 20 odd years ago, Phil, as well. So I think we have to finish, don't we, on that Lincoln. Tell us about that 2003-4 season and the celebrations after the Lincoln game. Rob Edwards, a real sort of cult hero of Town fans in the 90s and 90s. So recent converts to Huddersfield Town won't really know much about Rob Edwards, will they? But he was such an important and favourite player of the fans and players. He was a really nice guy, wasn't he, as well? Tell us about Rob Edwards and the characters in that team, like Iffy and Yura as well, coming in towards the end of the season, playing up front with Boothie, probably the most mobile partnership you will ever see. And you've got your John your McAliskys, your Abbots, John Worthington in midfield driving on, and it was such a fun season. And Lee Morris, who listens to the podcast sometimes and does bits for the for the Heritage website. Sorry, not the National Heritage. He probably does bits of that as well. He does all sorts. But he calls it his favourite season by a mile. He absolutely loved it. And people like Anthony Lloyd, Andy Holdsworth, all those players. Tony Cars, who's doing amazingly well, isn't he? And he's coaching as well.
Yeah, class.
Steve Yates, Effie, so many players, and even like Ian Hughes, Martin
Lee
Booty,
Fowler,
Little Lee Fowler, Nathan Clark, David Murphy. And I can reel them all off. Adnan Ahmed was probably not quite broke through at that point. He was maybe a little bit later, but a lot of fun that season. Gary Harkins, remember Gary Harkins?
John Newby.
Yeah, John Newby.
He got his tyres stolen.
Fowler Onabuji. I think that's the question, Phil. Did Fowler Onabuji ever put the ball past you in training, and we will rip you for it if you did?
I hope not. Bloody hell, I hope not.
Well, I've waffled on there, but just tell us about that sort of day, that night, and how good it was.
Yeah, it was a funny season, wasn't it? It was really unexpected. I think we felt a lot of pressure on for those games. We knew Lincoln were a decent team. We'd had a couple of tough games in the actual league season against them. So, and a weird one down at our spot where Pav stole in behind and scored that.
Onside, mate. Onside.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it was just the tensions were high. Gaffers told us about Keith Alexander and made some comments about us. So there were always like little bits going off in changing rooms and in the tunnel after the game. It was just weird, and we just didn't like each other really. So that game, and when Iffy turned up, Jesus Christ! I used to watch him at Leeds Road, and they were like one of my favourite players, and it was just really surreal for us young lads to be in and around this kind of situation, and from that negativity the year before to a season where it was so positive, it was so weird. And like I say, the pressure were on, and sat there on that the second leg, I felt like it was never going to happen. Really, I just felt really dejected, and then all of a sudden we just turned it on, and that little knockdown from Maka, who what a lovely kid. He's done well for himself since finishing football, and he had a fantastic spell under Jacko, and then it just drops to Robin. What a guy! It's we've spoken about this on the pod before, but how Jacko put that team together of those players. We had like three dads, Jose, Robin, and Yates said, you know what I mean? You would go out on a night out and some gear that Yates were wearing, Jesus Christ, he must have been out in Jesus sandals and stuff. And then obviously Boovie dressed by his missus. So like it were brilliant, and they really understated about how much they helped the young lads, and really helped them through those games. And I did an interview on BBC Radio Leeds the other day. They were the whole game they were average age were somewhat ridiculous, early 20s, and that went through the season. And those older players really did help us. But wow, what a night! To finish the game like it did down at our ground, and the scenes after, and we all went out straight after. We must have had a few nights out, because Jacko took us to Chester and had a night out before bloody final. And we all went out into town, and we went into a blob shop, I think it was. We went in, and a bit of a guard of honour kind of thing, and we all just mixed in with fans, and just how it should be. Do you know what I mean? Like players in and drinking with fans, and it were brilliant. So yeah, a season that I will never ever forget. It was such a good season, and I can't imagine how good it was fans.
It got delayed by about 15-20 minutes because there were so many people still queuing up outside. They had to delay it, didn't they? Because there's so many, and they had to open the lower tier behind the goal, because that never ever got opened. And you watch the highlights of that season, and that stand's always empty. Yeah. And then for that game, it's pretty full, isn't it? And there's like just under 20,000 for a League Two game, and we got some absolute crackers, didn't we? We had 17.5, 18 against Mansfield, which was a shame. I think we lost that 3-1, didn't we? And then Liam Lawrence was class that day. And then got revenge in the final. It was just a fun season, wasn't it? And those Lincoln games were fun. I remember losing 3-1. I think I went there to Sincilbank, and we lost 3-1, I think, in the first game. Gary Taylor Fletcher was good, wasn't he?
Class.
At that time for them, yeah. And then we beat them at home, which was such a tough game. Pavs,
Yeah.
because that rule with active and inactive areas for onside, offside was mental. And I know they've been that straight after, but
Yeah.
technically it was onside. It was just a farce how it happened, but it was funny. And they still cry about it to this day. It's really funny. They're still upset about it, even though it was the right decision 21 years later. And the playoffs were just so edgy. And I remember going there. I think, did we go 1-0 up really early? If he scored, didn't he? Oh well, if he says he scored, didn't he? It kind of sort of skimmed over his head, didn't he? And then I think they scored back. Was it Taylor Fletcher again, who might have scored the game? And then you just thought, oh, it's going to go like the league game, but no, mentally so much stronger at the end of the season. Just young kids, but just mentally so much stronger. Murphy kind of scores with a slide tackle, doesn't it? It's a strange one.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was a good day that day.
The whole kind of build up to it all, and the way that Jacko dealt with it with Taff, we're like I say, looking back again, it were brilliant. With the young lads, and because we were really inexperienced, so. You look back and you think, how did we even manage that? But I mean, I spoke to my lad about, like, he always asks what kind of attendance we're watching in that season and what we played in front of, and you always kind of remember the crowd were pretty full, and you remember it being really positive as well. So there was obviously an understanding within the ground that obviously we'd had a weakened team, and it was all kind of, a bit of a bonus for us. So it was brilliant.
It was brilliant for me, because I used to go watch Town, and John Worthington was in midfield, and he went to Wycliffe Mount, same as me. And he was like, he played in the school team with me once or twice. I think I was a year or two above him, but he played up. Lee Padgett was good as well, although I think he was a year below me, but he was probably one of the wasted talents, wasn't he? He was incredibly good. And I've got a mate, a mutual friend, and he just said he found beer and women, etc. And he went from that 2 years later, or 2 or 3 years later, having a penalty saved by me playing for Birkenshaw Reserves in a cup.
There you go.
There you go. That's what happened to Pat. He was phenomenal, but he was how it was. But I think that's enough reminiscing, Kosi, in it. But great, good.
He was, because
I should have got Lee Morris on. He'd have given us loads of stuff to talk
anyone
about.
who walked out of that Macclesfield ground in December after they absolutely took us apart thought Jacko should have been sacked. And
Matthew Tipton, the guy who played
that 12th, a 12th at that point, absolutely heading nowhere. So if you'd have simply got promoted from that point, it was just fairy tale stuff on it. And the York
game where Phil makes one of the best saves you'll ever see, by the way. That save that Phil makes against York were unbelievable. And then we win that 2-0. I think York were about the same sort of position as at that point.
They
went flying, and they got relegated, didn't they?
Yeah, crazy. And like you say, when you talk about like experiences and stuff and playing for your club, like that day at York was ridiculous, because like the Town fans are just
there were too many in that end. There shouldn't have been that many. I thought there were more than that should have been in there.
Well, yeah, but you could. But from where I stood, it was just you could just see it flooded. Yeah, because there were Town fans in the home end, because I saw them. There were loads of Town fans stood behind me in home end. So and that always used to make me laugh, because you'd go to that used to happen all the time. You'd see Town fans in home end, and you put your bottle in back at net, and you'd see someone's face, and you'd just go, "What the fuck are you doing in there?" But you couldn't say, "Oh," do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant, and I can't imagine how good it would have been as a fan as well, because it would have been so unexpected. And going back to what you're saying there, that season before, Jesus Christ, how negative. Administration, loads of negativity around the club. Pretty poor performances, kind of like losing like 1-0 and stuff, and it was just kind of huffing and puffing, and it was just awful to be around. To then a season of something totally different. It was weird.
That was it. Losing your star player to Northampton, that was a bit of a blow for us at the time, wasn't it? Martin Smith went to Northampton for the money, effectively, didn't it? Because they could pay more than us, and stuff like that was just people like,
I mean, you think about that year. I know Steady left the year after, but we had Steady, Martin Smith, and Boovy up front. It's not a bad strike force, is it, in that league? And we couldn't score goals. We just couldn't.
Scott McDonald.
Scott McDonald. Yeah, bloody hell.
And he went on, and he were also at Celtic, wasn't he? So
yeah. Weird season, really.
Yeah. And Scott Bevan, I mean, you next to Scott Bevan would have been some sight when it was
massive,
but he was rubbish, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was crap. All tall goalies, all really tall goalies are crap. They can't catch, they can't move the feet.
You ousted him. You got him ousted anyway. A quick smart, didn't you, Phil? Anyway.
Yeah.
But I think that's all we've got time for today. I think Kosi's losing his concentration levels. I can hear his TV's been turned up and the football's on and what have you. So I think it's time to end the show from there.
Because he's got about 4 TVs in that room. He's watching like 4 different things.
Like CCTV.
Ice hockey on left. Yeah, he's got ice hockey, golf, football.
Yeah, I must watch some Serie A on Saturday. First time I've ever been to Italy watch football. That's yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm still waiting for the invite. So anytime, Kosi, when you get these 3 tickets to these games, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't. You know what I said with like fans were booing people and that. I bet over there we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait for Dag Barnett's reply in the comments calling you a part-time fan again, Kosi. That's gonna. I'm looking out for that one. So
Cambridge on Milan. Let me think about it. What do you reckon? Yeah, okay. I'll come back to you, Dag.
Right, we'll call it there, guys. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening, and thanks, guys, for coming on. And we'll be back this time next week.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town, and the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.